production of Pride and Prejudice. Please turn off all cell phones and no flash photography.
Delighted to have the pleasure of receiving you here at Coffman. The Bennets of Longbourn. Pray allow me to make you acquainted with my daughters. Come along, Jane. Miss Jane Bennett.
The eldest. I cannot see why she must always have the chair nearest the window.
Hush, Lydia.
And the prettiest of all.
Mary, for goodness sake.
The next, Elizabeth.
Wittiest of all. The Captain Tally of the regiment expressed her to be the most critical young lady in Hertfordshire.
In the only complete sentence I ever heard you construct.
Nah.
And book in hand, as always, Mary.
The proudest.
Pride is a very common failing, I believe. By all that I've ever read, I'm convinced that it is very common indeed, and that there are very few of us who do not understand the feeling of self-complacency on the score of some quality or another, real or imaginary.
And last but not least.
Pride and vanity are different things, though the words are often used synonymously. A person may be proud without being vain.
Well, I still have...
Pride relates to our opinion of ourselves, and vanity to what we would have others think of us.
Well, yes, quite so. And the two youngest, of course, Kitty and Lily.
Are we only to be the youngest? Have we no qualities? We are the best dancers with the prettiest hats. And sing most charmingly. Well, I do.
My dear Mr. Bennett.
Mrs. Bennett, to be sure.
My dear Mr. Bennett. Have you heard that Netherfield Park is let at last?
I have not.
But it is, for Mrs. Locke has just been there and she told me all about it.
Probably an elderly bachelor with a King Charles style.
Indeed. Do you not want to know who's taken it?
Well, you want to tell me, so I certainly have no objection to hearing it.
Mrs. Locke says that Netherfield Park is taken by a young man with a large fortune.
Really?
That he came down on Monday and was so delighted with it that he had to take possession before Michaelmas.
Married or single?
We might first inquire the gentleman's name.
Bingley.
But married or single?
Oh, single, my dear, to be sure. A single man with a large fortune, 4,000 or 5,000 a year.
It is a truth universally acknowledged.
That a single man in possession of a good fortune must be in want of a wife.
However little known the feelings or views of such a man may be, it is a truth so well fixed in the minds of the surrounding family that he is considered the rightful property of someone or other of their daughters.
Oh dear. Hush, Lizzie, what a fine thing for our girls.
How so?
That he might marry one of us, Papa.
And is that his design in settling here?
Design, nonsense. It is not unusual that a young man may fall in love.
Though he must be a soldier in a great regiment of jackets.
You must visit him as soon as he comes.
Well, I see no occasion for that. You and the girls may go. Or perhaps send them by themselves, which may still be better, for as you're as handsome as any of them, Mr. Bingley might like you best of the party.
Well, I certainly have my share of beauty, but when a woman has 5 grown daughters of her own, she might give over ideas of her own attractions.
In such cases, a woman has often not much beauty to think of.
But think of your daughters. What an establishment it would be for one of them. You must go. It will be impossible for us to visit him if you do not.
You are over-scrupulous, sure. I will send a few lines by you to assure him of my hearty consent for his marrying whichever he chooses.
Mr. Bennett, you take delight in vexing me. You have no compassion on my poor nerves.
My dear, I have the highest respect for all nerves. They are my old friends.
You do not know what I've suffered.
Well, I hope you'll get over it. And live to see as many as 4,000 or 5,000 young men a year coming to the neighborhood.
It will be of no use to us if 20 should come, since you will not visit them.
Depend upon it, my dear. If there are 20, I will visit them all.
Despite his protestation, Papa was among the earliest of those who waited on Mr. Bingley.
Capital, Lizzie. I hope Mr. Bingley will like it.
We are not to wait to know what Mr. Bingley likes, since we are not to visit.
It isn't fair, Papa, really it isn't.
You forget that we shall meet him at the assembly. Mrs. Locke has promised to introduce
I
him.
do not believe Mrs. Long would do any such thing. She has 2 grown-up nieces of her own.
And plain as cake, both of them.
She is a selfish, hypocritical woman. But I have no opinion of her.
Indeed, but let us return to Mr. Bingley.
I say I am sick of Mr. Bingley.
I My dear, why did you not tell me so before? Had I known that this morning, I certainly would not have called on you.
Called on you? Called on me? Now you see what excellent father you girls have. But I knew I should persuade you at last.
Well, it seems as I have already made the visit, we do not escape this acquaintance now. Oh, Mr. Garner, simply a delight.
Come, Darcy, I hate to see you standing about by yourself in a stupid manner. You had much better dance.
You know how I detest it, unless I'm particularly acquainted with my partner. Your sister is engaged. There is not another woman in the room. It will not be a punishment for me to stand up.
I would not be so fastidious as you are for a kingdom. I never met with so many pleasant girls in my life, and several uncommonly pretty.
Your partner, the youngest Miss Bennet, is the only handsome girl in the room.
Indeed. Most beautiful creature I have ever beheld. But there is one of her sisters, just there, whom I dare say is very agreeable. Allow me to ask my partner to introduce you.
She is told. That is insufficient to tempt me. Pray return, Miss Bennet. You're wasting your time with me.
Oh, my dear Mr. Bingley, we have a most excellent book. Jane is so admired that Mr. Bingley asked to dance with her twice. And the family turns to Maria Lucas, the fourth with Miss Key, the fifth with Jane again, the sixth.
If he had any compassion for me, he would not have danced half so much.
He's just what he often ought to be. Sensible, good humored, lively. And I never saw such happy manners. So much ease.
He's also handsome, which a young man should be if he possibly can.
I can hardly explain to you the shocking rudeness of Mr. Darcy.
How wise not to try, my love.
Was very much flattered by his happy thought the second time. I wasn't expecting such a compliment.
Did not you? Compliments always take you by surprise, and me never.
I assure you, Lizzie loses nothing by not suiting that Mr. Darcy's fancy, for he is a disagreeable and horrid man.
But tall, my dear, tolerably tall.
You're a great deal too apt to like people in general, Jim. You never see a fault in anyone. I swear, I never heard you speak of it in me in my life.
We not wish to be hasty in censuring each of us.
Your Mr. Darcy is so high and conceited, there is no enduring him. Lizzie not handsome enough to dance with? I quite detest the man.
I always speak what I think.
With your good sense, to be so honestly blind to the follies and nonsense of others.
Miss Bennet. Might you consider a stroll about the room?
We've been a short walk to Longbourn that the family were particularly neat.
Sir William Lewis, formerly in training Merton, and made a tour of the fortune
observing Mr. Bingley's attention to your sister, I do not think you suspect that you yourself have become, shall I say, an object of interest.
Oh, indeed. Where?
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, all to my hearth and home. Now don't dilly-dally, let the ball begin. So what charming music the young people can dance, eh? I consider it one of the first refinements of cultural society.
Any savage can dance, sir.
Which, sir?
Which indeed.
Do you not notice Mr. Darcy seems always on the fringes of your conversations?
Mrs. Long told me last night that we once sat close to her for half an hour without once opening his lips. Miss Bingley told me that he never speaks much, unless one is intimate with him.
You waste the ball, and I can shut up! No, Tim.
He has an extremely critical eye. If I do not begin by building him permanent myself, I shall soon bear acquaint with him. Did you not think, Mr. Darcy, that I expressed myself uncommonly well just now, and I was teasing Colonel Forster to give us a ball of merit?
Great energy. It is a subject which always makes a lady in a gentleman.
My dear Eliza, why on earth are you not dancing? Mr. Darcy surely cannot refuse to dance with such beauties.
I entreat you not to suppose that I move this way in order to beg for a partner.
Might I have the honor of your hand for the next experiment?
Mr. Darcy, you are all politeness. I must deny myself the pleasure. Mr. Darcy, I can guess the subject of your reverie.
I should imagine not.
You are considering how insupportable it would be to pass many evenings in such society, and indeed I am quite of your opinion.
Law, I was sworn down with 12 years and a Dr. Bruce.
The insipidity, the noise, the nothingness, and yet the self-importance of all these people. What I would give to your strictures on them.
The injection is quite wrong, I'm sure. I've been meditating with very great pleasure to pair of fine eyes in the face of a pretty woman in this earth.
Truly, pray tell me which lady is the crest of inspiring such affections.
It's Elizabeth Bennet.
I must confess, I'm all astonishment. How long has she been such a favorite? Pray tell me when I am to wish her joy.
I expect that much. The lady's imagination is very rapid. Shows some admiration for love, matrimony, and moment.
Nay, I shall consider the matter as absolutely settled.
You discover the roots of it! You will make me laugh!
You will have a charming mother-in-law with you.
Oh, Mr. Bennet! Mr. Bennet, you must hear what this mischievous fellow is saying.
And you will always have the pleasure of her being at Pemberley.
Miss Bennet. Pray forgive even the appearance of unwanted attention, but might I request this reel?
Indeed, sir. It's rather an honor than a request.
The honor, I believe, to be mine.
It seems Jane quite admires Mr. Bingley.
Noticeably, I would agree.
Bingley likes your sister undoubtedly, but he may never do more than like her if she does not help him on.
She does help him on, as much as her nature will allow.
Remember, Eliza, he does not know Jane's disposition as you do. Though they meet tolerably often, it is never for many hours together. Therefore, Jane should make the most of every moment she can command his attention.
That is a good one, Charlotte. But one where there is nothing in question for the determination to get a good husband. It's not Jane's feelings. She has no such design. She takes time, I think, to study his character.
Well, I wish her success with all my heart, and if she shall dine with my brother, as well as other
other
gentlemen and sundry officers.
Yours ever,
Caroline Bingley.
the officers! May Kitty and I go with Mamma. We should like to meet sundry officers.
Am I mistaken that there was but one name on the invitation?
May I have the carriage, Father?
Of course.
Indeed not. It would be much better, Jane, to go on horseback. For the weather looks ill, and you might have the good fortune to be thoroughly soaked and stay longer with the Bingleys in ill health.
Mamma's hopes were answered. Jane had not been long when it rained torrents.
That was a lovely idea of mine, indeed.
For you, Liz, you should never feel like me.
Sit down. My dearest Lizzie,
I find myself very unwell this morning, which I suppose is to be imputed to my getting wet with yesterday. The Bingleys will not hear of my coming home until I'm better.
though excepting a sore throat and a headache, there is not very much the matter with me. Yours, Jane.
Well, my dear, if your daughter should suffer a dangerous fit of illness and die, it would be a comfort of knowing it was all in pursuit of Mr. Bingley and under your orders.
Nonsense. People do not die of little trifling colds. And the inconvenience, Mr. Bennet, is worth the price.
She feels ill. I will go to her.
Is this a hint to me, Lizzie, to send for the horses?
The horses are wanted on the farm. The distance is nothing when one has a motor. I will walk.
You cannot go jumping over stiles and arrive with dirty stockings.
Jane, at least, will forgive me mine.
Mr. Bennet!
Ah, Miss Elizabeth, how remarkably good of you to come.
Pleasure, of course, Mr. Bingley. You can imagine my sister's letter gave me some cause for concern.
Of course. I wish I could answer that concern more favorably. Your sister is left ill, though is not well enough to leave her room. Allow me to take you to her.
Lizzie!
Oh, Jane! You look quite drawn. Should not you be lying down?
We have sent for the apothecary. I'd be most grateful, Miss Elizabeth, if you'd remain at Netherfield until your sister is quite well.
Yes, please, do stay.
I will dispatch a servant to acquaint your family and return with any necessities.
Mr. Bingley, I cannot attempt to thank you.
Any thanks are far beyond concern, Miss Bennet. Believe me, I have no pleasure in the world superior to that of contributing to yours.
Well,
He's quite attentive.
indeed he is. You are flushed, Jane. So I say, serves you exactly right for falling in with mother's advice.
Lizzie, how did you get here?
Well, the horses were commandeered from the field, so I walked.
Through the mud.
Through the mud, yes. To walk 3 miles or 4 miles or 5 miles or whatever it is, above her ankles in mud and alone, quite alone. What could she mean by it? Seems to me to show an abominable sort of conceded independence and complete indifference to decorum.
Shows an affection for a sister that is very pleasing.
I've an excessive regard for Jane Bennet, and I wish you were well settled. But with such a father and mother, and such low connections, I'm afraid there's no chance of it. Their uncle is attorney in Meryton, and another lives somewhere near Cheapside.
If they had uncles enough to fill all Cheapside, it would not make them one jot less agreeable. Miss Elizabeth, your sister improves, I hope.
She's resting, so it's not to be thought unsociable.
Indeed not. I find it singular and intriguing. Do you prefer reading to cards, Miss Bennet?
Miss Elizabeth Bennet despises cards. She is a great reader with little pleasure in anything else. I deserve neither such praise nor such censure. I am not a great reader. I find pleasure in many things. In nursing your sister, you have pleasure in that, I'm sure.
Hear, hear.
Is Miss Darcy grown much since the spring? I long to see your charming sister again. Such manners, and so accomplished for her age.
It is amazing to me. How young ladies can have patience to be so very accomplished as they all are.
All? My dear Charles, what do you mean?
Why, yes, Carolyn, all. I never heard a young lady spoken of for the first time without being informed she was very accomplished.
Fear I cannot boast of knowing more than half a dozen in the whole range of my acquaintance that are really accomplished.
Then you must comprehend a great deal in the idea of an accomplished woman. She must have a thorough knowledge of singing, drawing, music, dancing, languages, and a certain something in her arm or manner. The tone of her voice, or address and expressions, or the word would be but half deserved.
To all this she must yet add something more substantial to the improvement of her mind by extensive reading.
I'm no longer surprised at your knowing only 6 accomplished women. I rather wonder now at your knowing any.
I say, sister, perhaps you could take to the pianoforte. Oh, favors with the lively Scotch air.
Splendid. Perhaps Miss Bennet will then seize the opportunity to show us a fling. Simple seeming, but difficult in the execution. Will you essay?
I heard you before, Mr. Darcy. You wanted me, I know, to say yes, that you might find pleasure in despising my taste. But I always delight in cheating one out of their premeditated contempt, and therefore I have made up my mind to tell you that I do not want to dance at all. Despise me if you dare.
Oh, very sorry, Darcy.
Mr. Darcy, not to be laughed at.
Wisest and best of men may be rendered ridiculous by a person whose first object in life is a joke.
Certainly there are such people, but I hope I am not one of them. I hope never to ridicule what is wise and good. Follies and nonsense, whims and inconsistencies do divert me. I own them, and I laugh at them whenever I can. But these, I suppose, are precisely what you are without.
Perhaps that is not possible for anyone. It has been the study of my life to avoid those weaknesses which often expose a strong understanding to ridicule.
Which is vanity, pride.
Yes, vanity is a weakness indeed. But pride, but there's real superiority of mind. Pride will always be under good regulation. I have faults enough, but they are not, I hope, of understanding. My temper I dare not vouch for. It is, I believe, too little yielding and perhaps resentful. My good opinion once lost is lost forever.
That is a failing indeed. But you have chosen your fault well. I cannot really laugh at it. You are safe from me.
There is, I believe, in every disposition, a tendency to a particular evil. A natural defect which even the best education cannot overcome.
And your defect is a propensity to hate everyone.
Miss returned home. Mamma, I think it's not very important to him.
I am not for the life of me. See, Elizabeth, why you had to rush Jane home.
I wasn't rushed, Mamma.
Well, I, for one, gratified. Our evening conversation has lost much of its animation and almost all its sense.
Mr. Bennet, a pig.
My dear, I hope you have ordered a good dinner this evening, because I have reason to expect an addition to our family party.
Is it Mr. Bingley? Why, Jane, you never dropped a word of this. You start them.
It is not Mr. Bingley, it is my cousin, Mr. Collins, who, when I am dead, may turn you all out of this house as soon as he pleases.
But why, Papa?
It is the entail, Kitty. The entail of which I often remind you. The inheritance of my property is limited only to male heirs. And I, having produced none, my cousin, Mr. Collins, has become the legal recipient. Now,
Pray do not talk of that earliest man and this earliest legality. It is monstrous that your own estate should be entailed away from your children.
Mr. Collins was punctual to his time.
Ah, Mrs. Bennet, Mr. Bennet. As a pastor of the Church of England, I flatter myself that my present overtures of goodwill are highly commendable, and that the circumstances of my being next in the entail of the Longbourn estate will not lead you to reject my proffered olive branch. As for your daughters, I have heard much of their but in the instance, fame is falling short of the truth, and I doubt not seeing them, as I may say, to be well disposed of in marriage.
I should hope so, sir, or else they will be desolate enough.
I am very sensible, madam, to the hardships of my fair cousins, but I can assure the young ladies that I come prepared to admire them. At present I will not say more, but perhaps when we are better acquainted. Thus, in conclusion, I may say that having a good house and good living as a clergyman, I intend to marry, and in reconciliation with your family, I propose to choose one of your daughters. Surely you will agree that this atonement is an excellent one, both generous and disinterested on my part.
Indeed.
I very much approve of your eldest.
Jane?
Indeed, I conceive her both fetching and decorous. She should do quite nicely, and seniority must be preserved.
Jane? As for my other daughter, sir, I can't say that I know no predispositions. Concerning my eldest,
Jane.
Jane, I must say that it is very likely she will be soon engaged.
Oh, I see. And the next name? Elizabeth. Yes. Very forthright and not at all unpresentable.
Dad.
To escape Mr. Collins's lectures,
From the high quality and moral teachings of the pastor in the Church of England.
the Protestants of the short narrative,
Well, I suppose you can better fitted for a walker than a talker.
Dear God.
Indeed, one must first learn that the highest laws are the covenants of Christian duty.
and no sooner had I arrived at the regimental proprietary than 3 ensigns fell all at once,
And discovered from within, not from without.
and all the 3 asked me to walk out with them.
And that no man can become a serviceable servant solely through obedience to written edicts and, well, though the principles elucidated in.
Law, said I am but one young lady, as you can plainly. Would be satisfied. Oh, you, a newly elected officer of the regiment. You, a most gentlemanlike appearance who was introduced to us by an officer already of our acquaintance as.
Mr. Wickham.
His appearance was greatly in his favor. He had all the best parts of beauty. Quite countenance. A good figure. Pleasing address.
How do you do? This is a lucky chance indeed. The officers' table Bennett's are much spoken of and all fit our probation. Miss Catherine, Miss Lydia, are you not? Profoundly sorry. I have to be correct in addressing you as, Miss Elizabeth Bennet.
Yes, quite correct.
I solicit your further acquaintance, Miss Bennet.
Our society, sir, is not extensive. I venture to say we will meet again.
La, we were talking oh so very agreeably, when the sound of horses draw notice. And Mr. Bingley and Darcy came riding by.
Mr. Wickham barely touched his hat, which Mr. Darcy hardly deigned to return.
What could be the meaning of it? Before walking on, we naturally enjoined Mr. Wickham to pay us a visit.
With very great pleasure indeed. I feel we poor souls in the army lack greatly in feminine instruction. Miss Bennet.
Mr. Wickham.
Ah, but our sister has made a conquest.
Lydia.
I am very fortunate to my patroness, non-pariah Lady Catherine de Burgh, who has condescended to take me in hand. What beauty, what elevated style and affability. She's, of course, the proprietress of Rosings, and a very, 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 very expensive property. Her daughter's indifferent health unhappily prevents her from being in town, which, as I told Lady Catherine myself, has deprived the British court of its brightest form.
Absolutely splendid.
Mr. Wickham has arrived. Mr. George Wickham, Papa, please.
Delighted.
Parson Collins, Mr. Wickham.
Always a pleasure to meet a gentleman of the cloth. I didn't near miss myself.
As Mr. Collins once again held forth,
I have more than once observed Lady Catherine that her charming daughter seemed born to be a duchess and the most elevated rank, instead of giving her consequence, would be adored by her.
Mr. Wickham suggested that I show him around the grounds.
Please excuse my temerity in accepting your sister's invitation with an almost unbecoming alacrity.
It is a great kindness to seek us out. The regiment, I hope, is not unhappily quartered here.
Oh, I cannot speak for the regiment, but I must say I am personally improved by the acquaintance with your family.
A courtesy very prettily put.
Sincerely meant.
I could not help but notice, sir, a certain coolness of regard passing between yourself and Mr. Darcy.
You've a keen eye, Miss Bennet.
And a curious one, sir.
Might you tell me how far Netherfield is from Meryton?
3 miles, perhaps?
Indeed. How long has Mr. Darcy been staying there?
About a month. He's a man of very large property in Derbyshire, I understand.
Yes, his estate there is a noble one. In fact, I've been connected with this family from my infancy. Are you much acquainted with him?
I spent 4 days in the same house with him. I find him very disagreeable.
I believe your opinion would in general astonish.
Really? He's not at all like in Hertfordshire.
I believe the world is perhaps blinded by his fortune and consequence, and only sees him as he chooses to be seen.
I should take him even on my slight acquaintance to be an ill-tempered man.
Yes, I fear I have considerable knowledge of Mr. Darcy. His father had an uncommon attachment to me. I cannot do justice to his kindness. His son and I were born in the same parish and the same amusements. My father was his father's estate manager. The elder Mr. Darcy near the church offered me my profession, and he promised me the family parish, or if not, any voluntary promise of providing for them. But both were countermanded by young Darcy after his father's death.
On what grounds?
The late Mr. Darcy liked me less, his son might have borne with me better, but his father's uncommon attachment to me irritated him. He had not a temper to bear the sort of competition in which we stood. Sure, his behavior to me has been scandalous, but I cannot trust myself on the subject. I can hardly be bound to him now.
I had not thought Mr. Darcy as bad as this.
I do believe that most of his actions may be traced to his considerable pride.
Could such abominable pride as his ever have done him good?
I must own him to be liberal, generous, display hospitality, assist his tenants and relieve the poor. Family pride and filial pride have done this. His father's preference for me has pricked that pride and made him my enemy.
I'm astonished at his intimacy with Mr. Bingley. Do you know him?
Not at all.
He's a sweet-tempered, charming, amiable man. He cannot know where Mr. Darcy is.
Mr. Darcy can please where he chooses.
My judgment would be that he deserves to be publicly disgraced.
Sometime or other he shall be, but not by me. Miss Bennet, might I say that the troubling aspect of our subject has not made you a witness delightful?
I must suppose that the relationship you have described will not allow your presence at the coming ball at Netherfield.
I would fear a discomfort for all involved, but make no mistake, Miss Bennet. I keenly feel the loss.
Whatever he said was well said. Whatever he did was done gracefully.
From all astonishment and concern, they know not how to believe that Mr. Darcy could be so unworthy of Mr. Bingley's regard.
But I can much more easily believe Mr. Bingley's being imposed upon, rather than Mr. Wickham create such a history of himself.
It is so distressing. One does not know what to think.
I beg your pardon, one knows exactly what to think.
I only know with certainty that poor Mr. Bingley would have much to suffer
Poor
with his
Mr. Bingley.
I speak only as an observer.
Back at home, Mr. Bingley and his sister came to give their personal invitation for the long-expected ball at Netherfield, fixed for the following Tuesday. Well, Mr. Collins,
I am by no means of the opinion, I assure you, that a ball of this kind given by a young man from character can have any evil tendency, and I am so far from objecting to dancing myself that I take this opportunity, Miss Elizabeth, of soliciting the first 2 dances with you especially.
And it struck me that I had been selected from among my sisters as worthy of being the mistress of the Hunsford parsonage.
Truly,
I perceive that Elizabeth still longed to see Mr. Wickham among those assembled.
Seeking the conquest of all that remained unsubdued of his heart.
I might title them dances of mortification.
Oh, let me run to the next room.
Who to the next, Miss Bennet?
I hardly think that.
Do not be a simpleton and allow your fancy for Wickham to appear unpleasant in the eyes of a man 10 times his consequence.
Well,
Music is well played, do you not think? It is your turn to say something now. I made a remark on the dance, but remark on the number of couples and the size of the room.
quite assure you that whatever you wish me to say will be said.
Very well. Do for the present. We may be silent.
Talk by the rule then when you're dancing.
I've always, Mr. Darcy, seen a great similarity in the turn of our minds. We are each of an unsocial, taciturn disposition, unwilling to speak unless we expect to say something that will amaze the whole room. We have that to posterity, a part of a part.
No very striking resemblance to your own character, I'm sure. How near it may be to mine, I cannot pretend to say.
I recently had the pleasure of forming an acquaintanceship with a childhood friend of yours. A Mr. Wickham.
Mr. Wickham is blessed with such happy manners as to make sure of his making friends. But he may be equally capable of retaining who is less certain.
He has been so unlucky as to lose your friendship, in such a manner from which he is likely to suffer all his life.
What think you of books, Miss Elizabeth?
Not talk of books in a ballroom. My head is full of something else. I remember hearing you say, Mr. Darcy, that you hardly ever forgave, that your resentment Once created, was unappeasable. You must be very cautious then, I suppose, as to its being created.
I am.
You are never blinded by prejudice.
May I ask what these questions tend?
You lead to the illustration of your character. Trying to make it out.
What is your success?
I do not get at all. You have such different accounts of you as to puzzle me exceedingly.
I can readily believe, Miss Bennet. Reports may vary greatly with respect to me. And I could wish that you would not sketch my character at present, as there's reason to fear that the performance would reflect no credit on either.
Ah, Mr. Darcy! Or if I'm not mistaken, the nephew of my eminent patroness, Lady Catherine de Berg, who has secured for me the living at Huntsman Parsonage. Thus, allow me to observe that I consider the clerical office as equal in point of dignity with that of the highest rank in the kingdom, provided that the proper humility of behavior is at the same time maintained.
You've neglected your name, sir.
Have I?
You have.
Mr. Collins, sir.
Delighted.
Excellent, most excellent. I have no reason, I assure you, to be dissatisfied with my reception. He answered me with the utmost civility, and upon the whole, I am very much pleased with you.
He neglected his name.
Did he?
I hear you were quite delighted with George Wickham. Oh, yes, your sister Jane has been talking with me. Do you know he was the son of late Mr. Darcy's steward?
I believe he's still a surgeon. Yes.
Let me recommend you, however, as a friend, not to give implicit confidence to all his assertions. As to Mr. Darcy's using him ill, it is perfectly possible. On the contrary, he has always been remarkably kind to me. George Wickham's treated Mr. Darcy in the most infamous manner. I do not know the particulars, but his coming into the country has been a most insolent thing. And as for his descent, one cannot expect much better.
His guilt in his descent appeared by your account to be one and the same. I have heard you accuse him of nothing worse than being the son of Mr. Darcy's steward. And of that I can assure you, he informed me himself.
I beg your pardon. Please excuse my interference. It's kindly meant.
Insolent girl.
My heavens, you said it wonderfully.
Under your instructions, sir.
Ah, Miss Bingley! I'm sure I needed to break the advantages of such a match. Such an advantage!
Sadly, our carriage waits. We must go.
3 miles, we must go.
Ah, Miss Elizabeth, it is a great shame we footed it but once.
When at last the guests and officers quitted the house, Mamma spoke all the way through the preparations, new carriages ready for us, and seeing Jane sooner than ever within 3 months. Oh, and Elizabeth's marriage to Mr. Collins as well.
May I hope, madam, for your interest in your penultimate eldest Elizabeth, for I solicit the honor of a private audience with her within the course of this morning.
What? Oh! A private audience. I see the drift, Mr. Collins, a private audience. I understand. I'm sure she will be very happy. I'm sure she will have no objection. A private audience. Come, lady, I want you upstairs.
Dear madam, do not go.
Not go.
Mr. Collins must excuse me. You don't have anything to say to me that everybody else need not hear.
Nonsense. I desire you stay where you are. Lydia. Lizzie! I hearing Mr. Collins. Lydia. Stay!
Your Modesty as owned to your other perfections, for my intentions have been too marked to be mistaken. Now, before I run away by my feelings, I shall enumerate my reasons for marrying. First, to set an example of matrimony in my parish.
Of course.
Secondly, it greatly adds to a man's well-being. And thirdly, by the particular advice and recommendation of Lady Catherine de Bourgh, my patroness.
Let her be an active, useful sort of person, able to make a small income go a long way.
Her very words. You may observe, Herr Cousin, that I do not reckon the notice of Lady Catherine de Bourgh the least of my advantages, your wit and vivacity must be acceptable to her, especially when tempered with the silence and respect which her rank invariably excites. For, as I am to inherit this estate after the death of your honoured father, I feel bound to choose a wife from among one of his daughters so that the loss to him might be as little as possible. And now, nothing remains but for me to assure you in the most animated language the violence of my affections. As to fortune, I am completely indifferent, and as to dowry, I am well aware of your father's finances, and I can assure you that no ungenerous reproach shall ever pass my lips when we are married. No.
I'm very sensible to the honor of your proposals, but it is impossible for me to do otherwise than to decline them.
It is usual with young ladies to reject at first the addresses of the man they secretly mean to accept.
I do assure you that I am not one of those young ladies. You cannot make me happy. I'm convinced that I'm the last woman on earth who could make you so. Were your friend Lady Catherine to know me, she would find me in every respect ill-qualified. The matter may be considered, therefore, finally settled.
Naturally, you cannot be serious in your rejection of me. Good sense and financial necessity forbid it. It is your wish to increase my love by suspense, as is the usual practice of elegant females.
I am not, Mr. Collins, an elegant young female intending to plague you. I am a rational creature speaking the truth from her heart. I will not have you. Can I speak plainly?
You are uniformly charming.
Mr. Collins, allow me to be the first to congratulate you.
She has begun delightfully with a refusal.
A refusal?
And with bashful modesty and the genuine delicacy of her character.
Mr. Bennett, you're wanted immediately. She is a headstrong, foolish girl. She does not know her own interest.
Headstrong.
But I will make you know it.
Headstrong and foolish? Oh dear me. If so, it were better not force her acceptance, because if liable to such defects of temper, she could not contribute much to my felicity.
Mr. Bennett, you must come and make Lizzie marry Mr. Collins, for she vows that she will not have him.
Pray excuse me.
I have not the pleasure of understanding you.
And Mr. Collins begins to say that she will not have Lizzie. Lizzie!
And what am I to do on the occasion?
Why, you must say you insist upon her marrying him.
Come, Lizzie. Is it true that Mr. Collins has made you an offer of marriage?
It is, sir.
And this offer of marriage you have refused?
I have, sir.
An unhappy alternative is before you, Elizabeth. Your mother will never see you again if you do not marry Mr. Collins. And I will never see you again if you do.
I tell you what, Miss Lizzie, you go on in this way, you will never get a husband at all. And I do not know who is to maintain you when your father is dead. Oh, Mr. Collins.
Please excuse me, but spirits may not find their true expression in the somewhat circumscribed life of the parsonage. I have certainly meant well, and if my manner has been in any way reprehensible, I here beg leave to apologize. I'm resigned, but I have improved. Resignation is never so perfect as when the blessing denied begins to lose its value in our explanation.
Miss Lizzie, I shall simply say that I will never speak to you again, and you will find me as good as my word. I have no pleasure in speaking to undutiful children.
Come back.
Was to have gone on Saturday, and 2 Saturdays he still meant to stay. And the assiduous attentions paid to Lizzie were transferred to Charlotte Lucas, whose civility, listening to him, was a seasonable relief to us all. James has come from Netherfield. From Netherfield? Caroline Lees is the whole party living in the town without any interest in her graduate.
I do not pretend to regret anything I shall leave in Hertfordshire, except your society, my dearest friend. It is evident by this that Mr. Bingley returns no more this winter.
It is only evident that Miss Bingley does not think he should.
Regent Court which particularly hurts me. I have no reserves from you. Mr. Darcy is impatient to see his younger sister, and to tell you the truth, we are scarcely less eager to meet her again. Georgiana has no equal in beauty, elegance, and accomplishments, and we dare entertain the hope of her becoming hereafter our sister.
Foolishness, she is a child.
Is it not clear enough? Does it not expressly state that Caroline neither expects nor wishes me to be her sister, and that she's perfectly convinced of her brother's indifference towards me? Can there be any other opinion on the subject?
Yes, there can. Mine is totally different. Will you hear it?
Most willingly.
It is this. Miss Bingley simply sees that her brother is in love with you. Wants him to marry Georgiana Darcy.
You must not criticize Lizzie. Perhaps I imagine Mr. Bingley's regard. Women fancy admiration means more than it
Men
does.
take great care that it should. Your sister has influenced him, Jane.
Surely she only wishes his
She
happiness.
doesn't wish many things other than his happiness, which is an increase in wealth, better connection, and greater consequence.
I think no ill of him or his sister. It has only been an error of fancy on my side, and that has done no harm to anyone but myself.
Jane, you are too good. You wish to see all the world as respectable, but the more I see of it, the more I'm dissatisfied with it. Every day only confirms my belief in the inconsistency of all human characters. I've come to distrust even the appearance of marital sense.
You must not hinder your happiness on my behalf.
So, Lizzie, your sister has crossed in love, I find. Well, I congratulate her. Next to being married, who likes to be crossed in love every now and then? You will not long bear to be outdone by Jane. There are enough officers of merit to disappoint all the young ladies in the country. Let Wigan be your man. He is a pleasant enough fellow, and would jilt you creditably.
Thank you, sir. But a far less agreeable man would satisfy me. We cannot all expect Jane's good fortune.
Amazement. Within the married in as short time as Mr. Collins's long speeches would allow, all was settled between him and Charlotte Lucas by way of
Domestic arrangement.
and Lizzie feels she accepted him solely from the pure and disinterested desire of an establishment, and as Mamma said,
Cared not how the establishment was gained.
Charlotte's marriage is unaccountable. In every view, it's unaccountable.
You must not give way to such feelings as these. They will ruin your happiness.
Why should you be so surprised, my dear Eliza? Do you think it incredible that Mr. Collins is able to procure any woman's good opinion because he was not so happy as to succeed with you?
Indeed not, but 2 offers of marriage in 3 days.
My dear Eliza, I'm sure when you have had time to think it over, you will be satisfied for me. I'm not a romantic. You know I never was. Come and visit the parsonage as soon as ever you can.
And I tell you, Mr. Collins has been taken in. Worse, Elizabeth, I am sure, is the cause of all this mystery.
No.
I tell you, we are in a critical state. Because of the entail, Charlotte Lucas will be the mistress of this house, and I will be forced to make way for her and see her take my place in it.
Darling, let us hope for better things. Let us flatter ourselves that I may be my own survivor.
In our bloom, Mr. Wickham's society was of material service. His betrayal by Mr. Darcy was general knowledge. We all agreed that
Mr. Darcy was the worst of men. On the following Monday at the Gardners, my mother's brother and his wife arrived. Mr. Gardner is a sensible, gentlemanlike man, and Mrs. Gardner is always enlivening the premises by distributing presents, describing the newest fashions, and giving safe advice.
he is not in love with me.
I can help it. Do not involve yourself in an affection which will not afford you to
I'm
make
not
very-
in love with him at present. Although I will say he is the most agreeable man I ever saw.
unwise.
How am I supposed to be wiser than so many of my fellow creatures if I intend? How am I even to know that it would be wisdom to resist? All I can promise, therefore, is to not be in a hurry.
I say no more. I shall take Jane into London. Poor girl. There's a chain of seating my dear service. It had better happen to you, Lizzie. You'd have laughed yourself out of it soon. I understand it is with the Collins in a newly married estate. You must visit his marriage.
As March was to take me to the Hunting parsonage, the improvement of spending a night in London made the plan perfect as planned to be.
Lizzie!
I see London is very agreeable to you.
Lizzie, sit with me.
Every pleasure. You look so well.
I confess myself to have been entirely deceived by Miss Bingley's regard for me. She's barely visited me here in London. When she had, it was evident she had no pleasure in it. In fact, she seemed only able to have come to convince me of her brother's interest in Miss Darcy. All gentlemen held my lowest repute. They said that Mr. Wickham, whose new marvelous Miss King, whose most remarkable charm, I might add, seems to be the acquisition of confirmed mortality of £10,000. And it's the least and delicate directed attention towards her so soon after this event. You are pale, Lizzie. Are you ill?
A man in distressed circumstances has not the time for the elegant decorums which others might have shown. If Miss King does not object to it, why should we?
Her not objecting to it does not justify him. A very poor opinion of all the young men in Hertfordshire.
Their intimate friends in Derbyshire are not much better. I'm sick of them all. Thank heavens, tomorrow I'm headed to the Collins parsonage, where I shall meet with a man who is not one of beautiful quality, who has neither the manners nor sense to recommend him. Perhaps Jane. Stupid men are the only ones worth knowing after all.
Bravo! You must accompany Mr. Gardner and myself on to a pleasure this summer, where we shall avoid the sex altogether and regard the landscape.
My dear aunt, what delight, what felicity! Due to the disappointment and spleen, what are men to rocks and mountains? Every object in my next day's journey was new and interesting, the chase comfortable, the weather delightful, and all conspired for the pleasure of the travel. At length,
most of you for being simply dressed.
The dinner was exceedingly handsome. There were all the servants and each article of plate which Mr. Collins promised and so elaborately described.
You must not be surprised Mr. Darcy will be in attendance, bringing along with him a Colonel Fitzwilliam, the younger son of his uncle.
It is my pleasure to introduce the Right Honourable Lady Catherine de Bourgh, my patroness, whose wit, affability, and condescension make her the admired ornament.
Yes, quite so. You are, I believe, Elizabeth Bennet.
Yes, I am.
Your father's estate is entailed to Mr. Collins, I think. For your sake, I am glad of it. But otherwise, I see no occasion for entailing estates from the female line. Mr. Collins, a word.
Miss Bennet, I hope to meet you again.
Not I.
How many present Colonel Fitzwilliam?
Your beauty of reported exceeds Miss Bennet.
Thank you, Colonel. But this has not been true in all quarters.
Miss Bennet, your family?
My family.
How many sisters have you, Miss Bennet?
I have 4 sisters.
That is a great many. Are you the eldest?
I am the second.
Are your sisters handsome?
Indeed.
Do they play and sing? Do you draw?
No, not at all.
What, none of you? How odd. Has your governess left you yet?
We never had a governess.
No governess? 5 daughters brought up without a governess? I've never heard of such a thing. Your mother must have been quite a slave to your education.
Not perhaps as you might think. Those of us as wished to learn never wanted for the means. We were encouraged to read and books were always provided. But one who would wish to remain idle certainly might.
Aye, no doubt. But that's what a governess would prevent. Had I known your mother, I would have advised her most strenuously to engage one. Are any of your sisters out yet?
Yes, ma'am.
All. All? All 5 out at once? The younger ones up before the eldest can be married.
Really, ma'am, I should think it very difficult on the younger. They not have their fair share of society and amusement, simply because the elder may not have the means or inclination to marry any.
Upon my word, you speak your opinion very decidedly for so young a person. Pray, what is your age?
With 3 younger sisters grown up, your ladyship can hardly expect me to own to it.
Miss Bennet.
What is that you're saying, Fitzwilliam? What are you telling Miss Bennet?
We are speaking of music, ma'am.
Of music? Then pray, speak aloud.
I was reminding Miss Bennet of her earlier promise to favor us at the pianoforte.
Ah, yes. Of course. Pray excuse me. I feel you will not find me a great proficient. Pray, continue your conversation rather than attend to me.
I often tell young ladies that no excellence can be acquired in music without constant practice.
You mean to frighten me, Mr. Darcy? My courage only rises with each attempt to intimidate me.
Not really believe me to entertain any design of long. I've had the pleasure of your acquaintance for long enough to know. You find great enjoyment in occasionally professing opinions which in fact are not your own.
Your cousin will paint a very pretty notion of me, then tell you not to believe a word I say. Take care, sir. You're provoking me to retaliate. Such things may come out as to shock your relatives to hear.
I am not afraid of you.
Pray, let me hear what you accuse him of. I would like to know how such a paragon behaves among strangers.
You will hear then, but prepare yourself for something very dreadful. The first time of my ever seeing Mr. Darcy was at a ball. He refused to dance, when more than one young woman was sitting down and wanted a part.
Nor at the time the honor of knowing any lady in the assembly. I am ill qualified to recommend myself to strangers.
Shall we ask him why a man of sense and education, who has lived in the world, is ill qualified to recommend himself to others?
Not the talent of conversing easily with those I have never seen before.
Strangely and unexpectedly, after our delightful evening at Lady Catherine de Bourgh's, the two cousins came often of an afternoon to the parsonage. It was plain that Colonel Fitzwilliam came simply because he took pleasure in Charlotte's and my company. Why Mr. Darcy came was more difficult to understand.
If you would not laugh to scorn me, Eliza, I might suggest the idea of him being partial to you.
He seldom meets my eye. Often sits there 10 minutes together without opening his lips.
Ah, but he often looks at you quite appraisingly while your look is engaged elsewhere.
Stop. I'm going for a ramble in the park.
Ah! Miss Bennet!
Colonel Fitzwilliam, I did not know you walked this way.
Are you going much further?
I should have turned in a moment. Do you certainly leave Kent on Saturday?
Yes, if Darcy does not put it off again.
I do not know of any man who more enjoys the power of doing what he likes than Mr. Darcy.
But so we all do. It is only that he has better means of having it, and I am at his disposal.
I imagine he brought you with him for the sake of having someone at his disposal. I wonder he does not marry to secure lasting convenience of that kind of. Perhaps his sister does as well for the present. She is under his sole care.
It just so happens that Darcy and I are joined in the guardianship of Miss Darcy.
Indeed you are. Young ladies of her age are sometimes a little difficult to manage. She has true Darcy's view, she may like to have her own way.
Indeed, she is one of the most tractable creatures in the world. But a great favourite of Miss Bingley. I think I've heard you say you know her.
I do. Mr. Darcy has always been prodigiously inclined to Bingley's.
Well, from something Darcy said, I've reason to believe Mr. Bingley very much indebted to him. It is a circumstance which Darcy, of course, would not wish to be generally known, because if it were to get round to the lady's family, it would be an unpleasant thing.
You may depend on my not mentioning it.
He merely told me that he congratulated himself on having lately saved a friend from the inconveniences of a most imprudent marriage. And I always suspected it to be Bingley, as his open age might get him into a scrape of that sort.
I beg your pardon, but what right does Mr. Darcy have to decide on the propriety of a friend's inclinations?
As I recall, there were some very strong objections to the lady's family. I believe one was a country attorney, and another was sort of mercantile background, and perhaps an unsuitable mother. But this is all conjecture. Good faith instead.
To Jane herself, there could be no possible objection. Oh, goodness and loveliness as she is, neither could anything be urged against my father. There be some peculiarities, possibilities that even Mr. Darcy need not disdain. Of course, my mother. Mr. Darcy would receive a deeper wound from want of importance in a friend's inclinations than from their want of sense. Mr. Darcy has been governed by this worst kind of pride, partly to retain Mr. Bingley for his sister.
Miss Bennet.
Mr. Darcy.
May I? It would be suitable if I inquired of your health.
My health.
As I've not seen you these past days, I thought. Come to inquire of your health.
My health meets all the usual standards.
Ah.
Yes.
Ah. In vain have I struggled. It will not do. My feelings will not be repressed. You must allow me to tell you how ardently I admire you. I see I dismay. I slow, even diligently. I should have declared myself at nearly a day. There were, of course, family obstacles which judgment always posed to inclination. The general sense of your social inferiority, of it being a degradation of the line. I could not forget my responsibilities to an estate, a way of life, a pride of place which might, given your circumstances, disinclude you. Thus, the very ardency I described took place against my will and reason. and an opposition to my character and inclination. But the very strength of my attachment has made it impossible for me to conquer my feelings. I can only express the hope now that these feelings will be rewarded with your acceptance of my hand. There. Spoken ill, mean well, Miss Bennet.
In such cases as this, it is, I believe, the established mode to express a sense of obligation for the sentiments avowed, however unequally they may be returned. It is natural that such obligation should be felt, and if I could feel gratitude, I would now thank you. But I cannot. I have never desired your good opinion. You have certainly bestowed it most unwillingly.
This is all the reply which I have the honor of expecting. Might perhaps wish to be informed why, with so little endeavor at civility, I thus reject.
I might as well inquire why, with so evident a design of insulting and offending me. You chose to tell me that you liked me against your will, against your reason, and even against your character. Is this not some cause for incivility if I was uncivil? But I have other provocations, you know I have. Do you think any consideration would tempt me to accept the man who's been the means of ruining perhaps forever the happiness of a beloved sister? You have divided Mr. Bingley and Jake from each other, the very least yours is the principal means, involving them both in misery of the acutest kind. Can you deny that you have
I
done
don't wish to deny that I did everything in my power to separate my friend from your sister. For that I rejoice in my success. Towards him I've been kinder than towards myself.
I've clearly said it is not merely this affair on which my dislike is founded. Your character was unfolded to me many months ago in a recital from Mr. Wickham.
Take an eager interest in that.
Knowing his misfortunes, you would not take,
His
and of
misfortunes.
your affliction. You have withheld the advantages that you must know were meant for him, and yet you treat the mention of his misfortunes with contempt.
This is your opinion. Thank you for explaining it so fully. Bitter accusations might have been suppressed, had I with greater policy flattered you into the belief of my being upheld by unalloyed and qualified inclination. Disguise of every sort is my way.
The motive of your declaration has not affected me, Mr. Darcy. You could not have made me the offer of your hand in any way. It would have tempted me to accept it. From the very beginning, your arrogance and selfish disdain has built an immovable dislike. You are, Mr. Darcy, the last man in the world whom I can prevail.
You've said quite enough, ma'am. I perfectly comprehend your feelings. Forgive me for having wasted so much of your time. Accept my best wishes for your health and happiness. Wondering the crowd for some time to come to meeting you here. Should do me the honor of reading this letter.
I detached Mr. Bingley from your sister, and the other that I had in defiance of honor, as to the prospects of Mr. Wickham.
Ah, Miss Bennet. You're well known in Hertfordshire.
Will you think me too forward if I apply you for a second dance?
I had not been long in Hertfordshire before I observed my friend's behaviour and perceived his most surprising partiality.
Your sister I also watched.
Though her manners were open and engaging, there was no symptom of warm regard or sentiment. She received his attentions but remained, to my eye, indifferent.
My objections to the marriage proceeded also from other causes of repugnance. Your family's want of propriety betrayed by your mother's manners, your younger sister's forwardness. Forgive me. Your father's misplaced wit, all confirmed my sense.
I must preserve my friend from a most unhappy connection.
In London I found your sister's uneasiness.
Has been greatly excited.
And we were alike, sensible, but no
No
time
time
should be lost in attachment.
passion.
Bingley has a great natural modesty, with a stronger dependence on my judgment than his own.
Convincing me I deceived himself was not difficult. On this
On the
subject,
I have nothing more to say,
and no
no
apology to offer.
offer.
With respect to that other more weighty accusation of having injured Mr. Wickham, that I will attempt to refute.
In short, his behavior to me has been scandalous.
My father was not only fond of this young man's society, but hoped the church would be his profession.
And intended to provide for him in it. He would situate him at the family parsonage and provide us a legacy of £1,000. On my father's death, Mr. Wickham wrote to inform me that.
I resolved not to follow a church living, but to instead study law, for which £1,000 would be insufficient. I hope you shall not think it unreasonable of me to expect more immediate pecuniary advantage.
Business was soon settled. He resigned all claim to assistance in the church.
And accepted in return £3,000. 3 years later, he applied to me again, having found the law an unprofitable study, and being then again resolved to be ordained.
This cannot be. This must be false. He has shown me his circumstances were.
Exceedingly bad.
You hardly blame me for having refused this entreaty, and his resentment was so great.
You betray your father's wishes and your own honor, sir.
That every appearance of acquaintance was dropped.
Indeed, on both sides, this is only an assertion. But every line only confuses my belief in Mr. Darcy's infamy. Last summer he again, most painfully obtruded on my notice. My sister Georgiana, for whom Mr. Fitzwilliam and myself were mutual guardians, was taken from school at her wish and established in London, where Mr. Wickham, by connivance, recommended himself to her.
Ah, Miss Darcy. A pleasure to renew your acquaintance.
She was then but 15, was persuaded to believe herself in love, and consented to an elopement.
Fortunately, regarding me as almost a second father, she confessed her plans.
You may imagine what I felt and how I acted.
I wrote to Mr. Wickham in undisguised chief, and he left London immediately and alone. His chief object was unquestionably my sister's fortune of £30,000, in the hope, I think, of revenging himself on me.
In this light, Mr. Wickham's attentions to Miss King seem the consequence of his hate for me, and so many mercenaries.
This, madam, is a faithful narrative of every event. If your abhorrence of me should make my assertions valueless, I direct you to Colonel Fitzwilliam, also guardian of Georgiana, and who's fully aware of every particular event described above.
I will only add,
God bless you.
God bless you. How humiliating a discovery! But how just a humiliation! Had I been in love, I could not have been more wretchedly blind, but it has been vanity, not love. It has been my fault. As to the mention of my family, in terms so mortifying, my sense of shame is severe, but the charge strikes too forcibly for denial. The defects, I fear, seem hopeless of remedy. My mother, Mrs. Selford, beyond all expectation, while my father does nothing to restrain the uncontrollable giddiness and self-willed carelessness of my younger sisters. Mary. Only excepting dear Jane. What can I call them all but ignorant, idle, and vain? How despicably I have acted. I, who prided myself on my discernment. At this moment I never knew myself.
Lily. Oh, hey. Aunt Philip said Lizzie had better take Mr. Collins's offer, but I do not think there would be any fun.
Jane should be quite an old maid soon. Oh, Lord, how I should like to marry before any of you, and then I should chaperone you about all the balls.
Kitty and I have been to the shops.
Oh, I do wish you'd have come, Mary, for we had such fun. Oh, we talked enough. Anyone might have fed us. Turn my idle talk.
Far be it from me, dear sister, to appreciate such pleasures. But I confess, I would have no charm on me. I shall infinitely prefer a book.
Come here, I've got this bonnet. I do not think it is very pretty, but I might as well buy it as not.
You see?
Oh, but there were 2 or 3 much uglier in the shop, and once I brought some prettier coloured satin to trim up with fresh, I think it will be very tolerable.
My dear sister, I am heartily sorry that Mr. Darcy should have delivered his sentiments in a manner so little suited to recommend them. But I grieve at the unhappiness your refusal must have given him.
You do not blame me, however, for refusing.
Blame you, no. But Wickham, so very bad. It's almost past belief. How unfortunate that you should have used such very strong expressions when speaking of Mr. Wickham to Mr. Darcy, for now they do appear wholly undeserved.
Well, Lizzie, what is your opinion now of this business of James? He is a very unreserved man, and I do not believe she will ever get in now. Well, my only comfort is I am sure Jane will die of broken heart, and then he will be sorry for what he has done.
News! Ecstatic, delicious! Wonderful news! The regiment will leave the fight. I thought my heart would have broken. Fine!
But no, Mamma, I have received an invitation from Mrs. Forster, the wife of the Candle of the regiment, to accompany her to Prejudice.
I cannot see why I should not be asked as well. Shan't. Shall. You confuse your steps to the dance espagnole, and you but one dress for the season, and that in unsuitable green.
Well, Lydia will never be easy till she is exposed to qualities in some public place or other, and we cannot expect her to do it with so little expense or inconvenience to her family as under the present circumstances.
Are you not aware, Father, of the great disadvantage to us all which must arise from the public notice of Lydia's unguarded and imprudent vanity, which is already increasing from it?
What, has she frightened away some of your loves?
We have no such injuries to resent. Dear Father, there is no check to her. Exuberant, furious. She may soon be beyond amendment. Oh, pickle me, yes. You? But he will follow wherever Lydia leads.
Papa has said I may.
Indeed, the visit to Brighton comprises every possibility of earthly happiness. You may pay the common flirt with at least 6 officers at once.
I tell you all, I said already, my Rufus. Yes. No.
We will have no peace in the long run if Lydia does not go to Brighton.
Mr. Wickham has arrived to say his goodbyes, as the regiment tomorrow decomes for Brighton.
But Mr. Wickham, I will not be saying my goodbyes, for Papa has agreed I may accept Mrs. Forster's invitation for an extended visit.
Shall be my pleasure, Bath, to introduce you in Brighton and share the town's historical views. Miss Bennett.
Mr. Wickham,
My disgrace, Miss Bennett.
I do not rightly understand you.
I've always admired your understanding.
Have I mentioned that I met Colonel Fitzwilliam and Mr. Darcy at Rosen?
In passing, you met with Mr. Darcy frequently.
Almost every day. I must say, he improves in acquaintance.
I hope he improves in address, for I dare not believe he improves in essentials.
I mean that by knowing him better, his disposition is better.
Though I must rejoice that he is even able to assume the appearance of what is right, for it must deter him from such foul misconduct as I have suffered by. But I fear I must leave you, Miss Bennett. We are on the march. And one last word on Mr. Darcy. His manners being in a state of improvement may be indicated towards forwarding a match with the daughter of Lady Catherine de Burgh, a match long contemplated by both families as a boon to their growing estates and a continuance of their honourable lines. Goodbye, Miss Bennett. I do not know when we will meet again, but I do wish you good fortune in wherever your inclinations may lie.
The departure of the regiment, leaving many acquaintances, wrapped a cloak of gloom and disinclination around our domestic circle.
Lily has promised to
write very often, but her letters are always very short. Where such and such officers had attended them.
And how she has purchased another new gown and another new parasol.
Dear constant hope of a tour to the lakes. The gardens was now the object of my happiest hope.
Guess who?
My dearest Elizabeth, our plans to Mr. Gardner's business must be somewhat curtailed this sense. I fear we must go out the lakes in some more contracted talk. And you set your hearts in the lakes. I urge they were an attraction. I fear we are confined to Devonshire. Although it is the wonders of Warwick, Kenwood, Lambton, and of course Pemberley. The Darkers. Yes, I recall. They're really a fine house. The furniture. I shall not care for it myself, but the grounds are delightful. The grounds, yes. Is not the family down for the summer? Indeed not. Goose boys were always in London.
Contains quite a variety of ground.
Glorious woods.
Eh?
Woods.
Good stream for fishing.
The house is on rising grounds. I own, I've never seen such natural beauty so little contradicted by an awkward taste.
Well there, Alexander.
You're very welcome. The master is of course absent, but we expect him tomorrow with a large party of friends. We are sure to always to show the house if you would like. Most kind indeed.
Your master much at Pemberley, is he?
Not as much as I could wish, sir.
Have a look at the stream, eh?
Please to step in. That, above the grand fireplace, would be my master, drawn perhaps 8 years ago.
A handsome face. But Lizzie, you can tell us whether it's like or not.
Does the young lady know Mr. Darcy? I do. And do you not think of a very handsome gentleman, ma'am?
Very handsome.
He is the best master that has ever lived. I've never had a cross word from him in my life.
Mr. Darcy, you mean?
Yes, ma'am. Go as you please, see what you like.
To attain your right as his place, though not quite consistent with his behavior towards our poor friend. It is possible that we have been deceived. Perhaps not. We may see the grounds. With the greatest pleasure. Indeed, the landscape, the lawn, the river, all in harmony with the buildings. I'm quite swept away.
Oh,
Oh! Ah!
Miss Bennet. This is a most welcome surprise.
Indeed. Most welcome.
May I inquire of your well-being and that of your family?
In all regards, well.
Very pleased to hear so. Would you do me the honor of introducing me to your friends?
Mr. and Mrs. Gardner. May I present Mr. Darcy? Charmed.
Delighted.
My uncle and aunt.
Of course, only adds to the honor.
Wonderful stream, Mr. Darcy. A capital angling, I suspect.
Quite satisfactory, Mr. Gardner. If you continue in the neighborhood, please do me the pleasure of fishing here as often as you like. I can easily provide the requisite tackle and direct you to the parts of the stream where there's usually the most sport.
Eh?
Best sport.
Very generous, sir. Look forward to it.
Very generous indeed. Please exempt our forwarders and walking the grounds. Your housekeeper informed us you would certainly not be here until tomorrow.
I preceded my party to arrange their comfort. Among them are some who will claim acquaintance with you, Mr. Bingley and his sister. One more who particularly wishes to be known to you. Will you allow me? Do I ask too much? Introduce my sister to your acquaintance during your stay at Hampton.
I am delighted by this compliment.
Ah,
Yes.
Great pleasure! Perfectly well behaved, polite and unassuming.
There is something a little aloof about his surety. He's not handsome, but his features are perfectly good. How come you tell us he was so disagreeable? Disagreeable.
Indeed not. At the worst, a little whimsical in his civility.
My dearest sister-in-law, the meetings and introductions suggested by Miss Darcy took place 2 days following and excited my little attention. I had conceived, you might say, a suspicion Mr. Darcy and Lord Dawson, which on that occasion grew to a full conviction that one of them at least knew what it was to love. Of Lizzie's sensation I remained a little in doubt, but that of the gentleman was overflowing to that race from living to mouth.
Thus, dearest Jane, in speaking of your supposed rival, Miss Darcy, I saw no looks between her and Mr. Bingley that spoke of any particular regard. He also asked me with great interest if all my sisters were still at Longbourn, which I took to be an inquiry as to your married state. Miss Bingley continues in her dislike of me. Georgiana Darcy is greatly civil, but very shy. Yours, Lizzie.
Something company, miss. Thought you might be wanting it. News from Jane. Very well. Glad I brought it to you, dear.
My dearest Lizzie, Colonel Forster has informed us that Lydia has run off to Scotland with one of his officers. And to own the truth, Lizzie, it is with Wickham, where still imprudent as a marriage between our poor Lydia and Mr. Wickham would be.
We are not frantic to be assured it has taken place at all, for we fear they have not gone to Scotland, but to London.
And there is reason to believe
He never intended to marry Lydia at all.
And Colonel Forster...
Yes, Wickham is not a man to be trusted.
Father has gone to London with Colonel Forster to try to discover her. But what he means to do, I know not.
He shall shoot the scoundrel through the heart, and then we will all be ruined.
You, I cannot help earnest begging you, come as soon as possible.
Oh, where's my office? I must see her this moment on business. I cannot be delayed.
God, what's the matter?
We have not an instant to lose.
I will send a servant.
No,
You cannot go yourself.
Dreadful news. My sister has left all her friends and eloped under the power of Mr. Wickham. You know him too well to doubt the rest. I fear she is lost forever.
I'm grieved. Shocked. Is it absolutely
Certain.
certain?
My father has gone to London, and my uncle no doubt assists. How was such a man to be worked on? How did it be discovered?
If there is anything,
Most kind.
would to heaven that anything could be...
You must go at once. I apologize for us to Miss Darcy. Dear me, your company has seemed to have fled the grounds in disarray.
Your pardon?
How very ill Eliza looked this morning, Mr. Darcy. I never in my life saw anyone so much altered as she is since the winter.
There's perhaps no miraculous consequence of travelling in the summertime.
I particularly recollect your saying one night, she's a beauty. I should as soon call her mother a wit. But afterwards she seemed to improve on you. I believe you thought her rather pretty at one time.
Yes, but that was only when I first knew her. For I now consider her the handsomest woman of my acquaintance.
It was in Hertfordshire that Lydia had any partiality for Wickham, that she wanted encouragement to attach herself to anyone. Mischief of neglect, mistaken indulgence towards such a girl. A family so deranged, a mother absent, a father incapable of exertion yet
would you say?
If I had been able to carry my point and go to Brighton with all of them, this never would have happened. Oh, why did the foresters let her out of their son?
Mother.
And now dear Mr. Bennet will fight Wickham whenever he needs him. I do not know what we shall do.
There?
Do not know what we shall do.
Ah, do not give way to useless alarm. I shall go to London, call my brother, and consult together what is to be done.
This is a most unfortunate affair, but we must stem the tide of malice and pour into the wounded bosoms of each other the balm of sisterly consolation.
You see, Mary thinks it's on the book.
Lydia wrote up saying if we knew where she was going.
You would laugh. What a good joke it will be when I write to Mamma inside my name, Lydia Wickham. I hope you will drink to our good Jan. Thoughtless Lydia.
But at least this confirms that she was serious in the object of her gen. Whatever he might afterwards persuade her to, it was not on her side a scheme of infamy. Father, he must have felt it.
We never saw anyone so shocked.
He could barely speak.
Mr. Bennet shocked? Indeed, I was taken ill immediately. I had to be carried to my room. Twice.
Oh, Jane.
Father! Mr. Bennet! Dear Mr. Bennet!
Father, what you must have endured.
No, that has been my own doing and my ought to feel
You
it.
must not be too severe upon yourself.
Lizzie, let me once in my life go how much I've been to blame. Or perhaps I will defer it until Kitty runs away.
I'm not going to run away, Papa. If I ever should go to Brighton, take Father and Lydia, do you suppose them to be in London?
Well, yes, where else can they be so well concealed?
Father, from Uncle Gardner of London.
Indeed, I have palpitation.
I have seen them both.
Oh, they haven't.
They are not married, nor can I find there was any intention of being so.
Water!
However, I hope it will not be long before they are.
Not long, you see. She is a good girl. Not long.
Hush, Mrs. Bennet.
All that is required of you is to assure your daughter by settlement her equal share of the £5,000 secured amongst your daughters after your decease.
And enter into an engagement of allowing her during your life £100 per annum.
Is it possible? Can it be possible that he will marry her?
So Wickham is not undeserving of
Terms
his
must
love.
be complied with.
Indeed, you must write, Mr. Bennet. They must.
And write I will. There are two things I want very much to know. How much money your uncle has laid out to bring it about, and how am I ever to pay him?
Money, my uncle, what do you mean, sir?
I mean that no man in his senses would marry Lydia for 100 a year during my life, and 50 after I'm gone. Wickham's a fool if he takes her for a farthing of less than £10,000.
Uncle Gardner pay such a sum.
Indeed he could not, nor I repay it.
You must write, Mr. Bennet. Inscribe this note. They will be married. I shall see her again. Oh, I long to see dear Lydia and dear Wickham too.
Dear Wickham.
But the clothes, the wedding clothes. We must see to it at once. Ring the bell, Kitty. We must have the carriages. Calico, muslin, cambric.
Mr. Gardner of the Wickham had resolved on quitting the militia, but would join the regular army and command a funeral spot, that quarter to the north. The couple returned to Longbourn, and the family assembled to receive them. Congratulate me, sisters! It is a great while since I've been here last. Good gracious! When I went away, I'm sure I had no idea of being married, though. I thought it would be very good fun if I did. Dear Jane, I take your place now, and you must go lower than me, because I am a married woman. And what do you think of my husband? Is he not a charming man? All my sisters must go right now. That is the place to get husbands.
I thank you for my share of the favor, for I do not particularly like your way of getting husbands.
La, you are so strange. But I must tell you how it went on. We were married, you know, at St. Clement's because Wickham's lodgings were in that parish, and it was settled that we should all be there at 11 o'clock. Well, just as the carriage came to the door, my uncle was walking on business, and I was so frightened that the wedding must needs be put off. But then I recollected that Mr. Darcy would do as well to give me away.
Mr. Darcy, give you away.
Oh, yes, he was to come there with Wickham, you know. But fallen. Wickham would be so angry.
Lydia!
Coming, Mama.
But are my suspicions concerning Mr. Darcy's actions correct?
Lizzie, really, if you're indeed so innocent and ignorant, I must be moist with it.
Dear,
Mr. Darcy called Thomas de Garner and found out who Wickham and his sister were. He professed it was owing to himself that Wickham's worthlessness had not been well known. He called it his duty to step forward and remedy the evil.
but not brought on by himself. It was Lydia.
Lydia, indeed. He called upon her to have a result on her making.
Lydia would be Lydia still,
Mr. Darcy asked why he didn't marry your sister at once.
because we are not rich.
Indeed, Wickham still cherished the hope of making his fortune by marriage to some other country. Mr. Darcy then settled upon him a large sum for his acquiescence.
I knew it.
And made Mr. Garner acquainted with it.
Lizzie, where you go to speak with father?
This must go, Lizzie, no further than yourself will jing at most. Mr. Darcy wants neither the act nor the sum known.
But you have told me.
I have.
Miss Bennett, you right interrupt your solitary ramble?
You do, yes.
Ah,
It does not follow that such an interruption must be unwelcome.
I'd be sorry indeed if it were. I find from your aunt that you've seen Henry.
I have, yes.
And I suppose you met with the old housekeeper as well.
Yes.
And what did she say?
That you had gone into the army and she was afraid had not turned out very well.
I see. And Mr. Darcy introduced you to his sister.
He did,
And do you like her?
very much.
I hope she turns out well.
I dare say she will. She has gotten over the most trying age.
You think ill of me, Miss Elizabeth.
I'm very happy that you have married my sister. How should you have liked making sermons?
Very well, but it was not to be. I shall leave you to your thoughts.
Come, Mr. Wickham. We are brother and sister, you know. Let us not quarrel about the past. I hope that in the future, you're always of the same mind.
You're a generous spirit, sister.
He is a fine fellow as I've ever seen. He simpers and smirks and makes love to us all.
I often think that is nothing so bad as parting with friends. One sees so forlorn without them.
Perhaps, ma'am, that was the consequence of marrying a daughter. It might make you more satisfied that your others are single.
Miss Piggy is coming down, Mama.
Wonderful news. I mean, he is nothing to us, and I am sure I never want to see him again. But he is welcome here, and who knows what might happen.
I assure you the news does not affect me with either pleasure or pain.
If he wants our society, he knows where we live.
But you will wait on him, of course.
I will not waste my hours running after neighbors every time they go away and come back again.
I begin to worry that he comes at all. I can see him with a perfect indifference. I can hardly bear to hear it thus perpetually talked of. My mother means well. She does not know. No one can know how much I suffer from what she says.
I wish I could say something to comfort you. It is wholly out of my power.
Miss Piggy is into the paddock and is running towards the house.
You contradict yourself with a smile of expectation.
Let me first see how he behaves, and then it will be early enough for expectation.
And there's a gentleman.
Some acquaintance or other, my dear. I'm sure I do not know.
No, it looks just like that. Oh, Mr. What's his name?
Goodness gracious! Mr. Darcy! And so it does. Well, any friend of Mr. Bingley's would always be welcome here, but I must say that I hate the very sight of him.
Ah, Mr. Darcy. Gentlemen were received with tolerable ease, and a purported behaviour that I equally freed them from any symptom of resentment or any unnecessary complacence. And then they went away.
It is a long time, Mr. Bingley, since you went away.
Good gracious, yes, far too long in my own opinion.
I began to fear you would never come back again.
Mrs. Bennet.
Miss Lucas is married and settled, one of my own.
matter for the greatest congratulations.
It is a delightful thing to be sure to have a daughter well married. Mr. Wickham has taken her up to Newcastle with the regiment, a place too far northward in my estimation.
Indeed. Excellent shooting this season, eh, Darcy?
Well, you also all your own birds. I have come to all of you are a visit in my debt, Mr. Bingley. Oh, when you went out to town last week, you promised that as soon as you returned, you would come and take a family dinner with us. I have not forgotten, you see. I was very much hoping that you would come back and keep your engagement.
To be remedied at the first opportunity, eh, Darcy?
Yes, you have been quite silent this evening, Darcy. I hope you are well.
Quite well. Very well.
And then they went away.
But why? If you came only to be silent, grave, and indifferent, did you come at all?
Now that this first meeting is over, I feel perfectly easy. It is clear we only met as common and indifferent acquaintances.
Jane, take care.
Surely you could not think me so weak as to be in danger now.
I think you're in very much danger of making him as much in love with you as ever. The man once refused.
How could I be so foolish as to expect a renewal of his love? Is there one among the sex who would not protest against such a weakness as a second proposal to the same woman? There is no indignity so aberrant in their feelings.
Mr. Bingley called again on Friday.
Having once set on this road to happiness, there was nothing on the side of prudence to stop him or make his progress slow.
He called again the following Tuesday.
Jane, of course, was too good for him. There's nobody minds having what is too good for him. He's very earnest in pursuit of possessing.
Yet came Thursday week.
I begin to think there is something in this, Jane.
Not possible that encouragement from Jane should be kept long waiting.
Mr. Bingley is coming. He looks quite serious.
Ah, Mr. Bingley! What a memorable surprise!
What did you winking at me for?
I did not wink. And you could come, I wish to speak.
Mr. Bingley, you cried.
Elizabeth! Goodness! I really must speak to you as to the matter of the groceries.
My dear Miss Bennet, I say, might I venture your given name?
Indeed, sir, if I might venture yours.
Smashing, top of the hill, really. My dear Jane, I wish to express how very great my esteem is for you.
I see.
No, by heavens, no. Esteem won't do. I must say affection. I really must say affection. My dear Miss Bennet, Jane, if you would do me the honor of...
I will! I have a very full heart. But, perhaps, for a fuller expression, you might venture a word with my father.
Your father? Well, this is top of the hill, no mistaking. I'll speak with him this very moment. Promise me you won't move so much as a ribbon.
I will venture to be very, very still. Dear. Lizzie! It's too much, by far too much. Why is everyone not as happy?
so compliant that nothing will ever be resolved, so easy that every servant will rob you, and so generous that you will always exceed your income.
Exceed that income, my dear Mr. Bennet. Oh, I make a whole 5,000 a year. I'm very likely more.
See, why am I thus singled out from my family and blessed above all? If I could but see you as happy.
If you were to give me 40 such men, I could never be as happy as you. And I have your disposition and your goodness. I could never have your happiness. No. Let me shift for myself, and perhaps, if I am very lucky, I may find myself with another Mr. Collins in time.
Oh, indeed.
Mamma, I have no notion how to see this. Leave Catherine de Bourgh at all.
No.
Yes.
I am astonished beyond all expectation.
I have shown myself in.
You are very welcome.
You're well, Miss Bennet. This lady, I suppose, is your mother.
Miss Stone and Mrs. Bennet, Lady Catherine de Bourgh.
And these, I suppose, are your sisters.
Yes, madam, my youngest of all is late.
This must be a most inconvenient room for sitting in the evenings in summer. The windows are all full west.
Yes, madam, you never sit here.
Miss Bennet, there seems to be a pretty sort of wilderness on one side of your lawn. I should be glad to take a turn in it if you should favor me with your company. I'm sure you are at no loss, Miss Bennet, in understanding the reason for my journey hither.
Indeed, you are mistaken. I cannot account for the honor.
However insincere you may choose to be, you will not find me so. My character has ever been celebrated for its sincerity and frankness. I was told that not only your sister was on the point of being most advantageously married, but that you, in all likelihood, would be united with my nephew, Mr. Darcy. Although I know it to be a scandalous falsehood, I've come to make my sentiments known to you.
If you knew it untrue, I wonder you took the trouble of coming so far.
To have the report universally contradicted, do you declare there is no foundation to it?
Your ladyship may ask questions that I shall choose not to answer.
This is not to be borne.
Your ladyship has declared it impossible.
But your arts and allurements may, in a moment of infatuation, make him forget what he owes to himself and to his family. You may have drawn him in.
If I have, I shall be the last person to confess it.
Miss Bennet, I am unaccustomed to such language as this. I am entitled to know all his dearest
But you are
concerns.
not entitled to know mine.
Mr. Darcy is engaged to my daughter. Now what should we say?
You have no reason to suspect that he would make an offer to me.
His mother and I have planned the engagement since the earliest hours, and he is destined for his cousin.
What is that to me? If there was no other objection to my marrying your nephew, I shall certainly not be kept from it by knowing his mother and aunt wished him to marry Mr. Burke.
Honor, decorum, prudence, nay, interest forbid it. The marriage would be a disgrace. You have neither family, connections, nor fortune. Your name will never even be mentioned by any of us.
These are heavy misfortunes, but the wife of Mr. Darcy will have no cause to repine.
Obstinate, headstrong girl. I am not in the habit of brooking
It will
disappointment.
make your situation more pitiable, but it will have no effect on me.
Tell me once and for all, are you engaged to him?
I am not.
And you promise never to enter into any such
I will
engagement?
make no promise of the kind. I must beg to be entertained no farther on the subject.
Not so hasty, if you please. To the objections I have already urged, I will never to add. I am no stranger to the particulars of your younger sister's infamous elopement.
Lady
A
Catherine,
patched up business in the absence of your father and uncle. Is such a girl to be the sister of my nephew? Is her husband to be his brother? Heaven knows, what do you think?
you have insulted me in every possible way.
Are you resolved to ruin him in the opinions of all his friends and make him the contempt of the world in the claims of duty, honor, and gratitude?
Duty, honor, nor gratitude have any claim on me in the present instance. As to the resentment of his family, or the indignation of the world, if the former were excited by his marrying me, you cannot give me one moment's concern. The world in general has too much sense to join on this cause.
Very well. I shall now know how to act. Do not imagine, Miss Bennet, that your ambition will ever be gratified. I take no leave of you. I send no compliments to your mother. I am very seriously displeased.
No.
Lizzie, I have received a letter this morning that has astonished me. I did not know I had 2 daughters on the brink of matrimony. The letter is from Mr. Collins.
Mr. Collins.
Your daughter Elizabeth, it is presumed, will not long bear the name of Bennet after her eldest sister has resigned it.
And the chosen partner of her fate may be reasonably looked up to as one of the most illustrious personages in this land.
Can you possibly guess, Lizzie, who is meant by this? Mr. Darcy, you see, is the man. Lizzie, I think I have surprised you. Is it not rich? Are you not diverted? Lizzie, you look as if you did not enjoy it. For what do we live but to make sport of our neighbours and laugh at them in our turn, eh?
I'm excessively diverted. But it is so strange.
Oh, yes, that is what makes it so amusing. His perfect indifference and your pointed dislike make it so delightfully absurd.
Mr. Darcy is here, Elizabeth, and most expressly to see you.
Mr. Darcy, can you get...
Miss Bennet.
Mr. Darcy. I am a very selfish creature. For the sake of giving a leap to my own feelings, and not how I may be losing yours. I cannot help thanking you for the unexampled kindness you showed toward my poor sister. Though it known to the rest of my family, I should not have merely my own gratitude to express.
I'm sorry, exceedingly sorry that you've been informed of what may, in a mistaken light, have given you uneasiness. I did not think Mrs. Gardner was so little to
You
be
must
trusted.
not blame my aunt. Lydia's thoughtlessness that first betrayed me to your involvement. Let me thank you again and again.
If you thank me, let it be for yourself alone. Your family owes me nothing. Much as I respect them, I believe I only thought of you. You're too generous to trifle with me. If your feelings are what they were last April, tell me so at once. My affections and wishes are unchanged. But one word from you will silence me forever.
My feelings, Mr. Darcy, have undergone so material a change since the period you allude to as to make me receive with gratitude your
Present assurances.
exactly.
I am.
You are.
I am. Yes. Very much so. I believe my aunt has been to see you.
She has.
My feelings, as you may know, are exactly contrariwise. I hope you spoke to her quite frankly.
You know enough of my frankness to believe me capable of that. After abusing you so abominably to your face, I can have no scruple in doing the same to your relatives.
You say to me that I did not deserve. My previous behavior to you has merited the severest of proof. It was unpardonable.
Behavior of neither, if strictly examined, will be irreproachable. But since then we have both, I hope, improved in civility.
As a child, I was taught what was right. And I was taught morals, but was left to follow them only in pride and conceit. I knew I was properly humbled. You showed me how insufficient were all my pretensions to please a woman worthy of being pleased.
I was most afraid of asking what you thought of me at Pemberley. Blamed me for coming.
I felt only the pleasure of surprise. My object then was to show you by every civility in my power that your reproofs had been attended to. How soon any other wishes introduced themselves, I can hardly say. I believe it was about 30 minutes after I had seen you.
Other wishes?
Other wishes? Yes.
Mr. Bingley?
On the evening before my going to London, I told him all that had occurred to make my former interference in his affairs absurd and impertinent. I told him, moreover, that I was mistaken in supposing your sister was indifferent to him. As I could easily perceive that his attachment was unabated, I had no doubt of their happiness together.
Did you speak from your own observation, or merely from what I said last spring?
I had narrowly observed her. I was convinced of her affections.
What do you narrowly observe in me?
That's something. Not sure what is expected. What have I done?
I sincerely beg your pardon. You have not yet learned to be laughed at. Rather, it's too early to begin.
Ah, yes. Excuse me. I must speak to your father.
I have given him my consent. And now I give it to you, if you are resolved to have him. But I know your disposition, Lizzie, and you could neither be happy nor respectable unless you truly esteem your husband. Your lively talents would put you in the greatest danger and an unequal advantage. And you could scarcely escape discredit and misery.
I do esteem him, Father. He has grown exceedingly in my estimation. His own affection is not the work of a day, but has stood the test of many months' suspense. He is the object of my choice.
Well, then this is an evening of wonders indeed.
Goodness gracious, Lord bless me. Mr. Darcy, and is it really true? Oh, my sweetest. How greatly rich you will be. What jewels and cabbages you will have. Jane is nothing to us, nothing at all. 3 daughters married, 10,000 a year. What will become of me? I shall get so distracted.
Now, I am truly happy, for you will be as happy as myself. Were it nothing but his love for you, I should always have esteemed him. But now, Bingley's friend and your husband, there can be only Bingley and yourself more dear to me. Go.